Welcome to the Nobody Knowz podcast with Callie Zamzo. Join us for conversations with local changemakers and hear the stories that don't always get told. It'll be honest, messy and beautiful, touching and humorous. Slow down, pour a glass, and pull up a chair. This is the Nobody Knowz podcast.
Welcome to Nobody Knowz. I'm your host, Callie Zamzo, and Happy New Year. I am thrilled to be starting this new year. 2026, 2025 was such a big year for me personally that moving into 2026 just feels a little bit a lot. If that's a thing. And the reason why I say that is that we're in a space with our family business where there are 3 generations involved. And every time that we move into a new chapter, i.e. a new year, we are looking at things and we're examining things and we're thinking about the future. And what struck me as I was thinking about it is that we have 3 generations who look at change completely differently. So we have my dad's generation. He obviously is, he's thinking of things more as a legacy. And a lot of his knowledge he's obtained all through the years. And he wants to make sure that holds and that our values hold. My brother and I are in kind of that middle generation. We're the ones running the company. We're currently steering things. Obviously, we're managing growth and risk and modernization and things like that. And then we actually have one more generation. My daughter, she works in the summertime, so she's not full-time at the stores, but my nephew and my niece both work in the stores. And as the youngest generation, they see the future as more of an open canvas and hope and reimagining things. And so there's this very interesting balance that's happening amongst the 3 generations. And I'm very grateful that the 3 of us communicate and that we are able to kind of share our ideas and have that going on. But as I was thinking about that, I'm like, well, I'm feeling that because it's family business, but maybe many of you are also feeling that because we're a part of families and we have generations, that are around us that are influencing us. And so I guess I'm just now waxing off. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just want everybody to enter this season and this new year with hope. And with that, I would like to thank our sponsors, Zamzo's. We really appreciate their sponsorship of this podcast. And I have a tip of the week that I'd like to share, and it has to do with wild bird feeding. So I think a lot of times, well, first of all, it's winter time. So I think a lot of times this is when people think about feeding wild birds because it's cold and they're, some of the things that they could find in the wild become a little bit more difficult this time of year. But it really matters that you choose a good quality feed for your birds. When you have a low quality feed, there are a lot of, cheap fillers, and very often they're seeds that maybe aren't necessarily for this area or for the birds that are in this area. They cheap bird seeds can actually have things that the birds will kick out onto the ground, which then will attract rodents, and then that kind of sets off a not great experience with feeding birds. So you want to choose something that is a high quality bird seed. And my favorite is the Zamzo's No Sprout. I like it because when the seeds inevitably do fall on the ground, they don't turn into weeds. So I like that part of it, but it also brings a lot of birds to my yard, and I really love that. Also, another thing to think about, 2 more things to think about in the wintertime. One is water. Make sure that there is a water source for your birds, and I put a little heater in there. You can get those at Zamzo's as well. It keeps the water from freezing. And then also you might consider adding suet this time of year, suet cakes and suet feeders for the insect eaters. So there's your tip of the day, your Zamzo's tip of the week, I should say. And now I'm going to introduce our guest, which I'm very excited about. This is a friend of mine, which I always love when a friend is in the studio. And she is actually has a really cool story and quite a lot of things that she's done. She's an author. I would love to figure out how to talk about that. She's a master gardener, which is how I know her. She's a former KTVB journalist, and she's the former Bogus Basin spokesperson. And she also has these children that have amazing stories, and she's just a really wonderful person. So please welcome into the studio, Gretchen Anderson.
Hi, Callie. That was, wow. No one's introduced me like that lately. It's usually, hey, this is my mom.
I know that introduction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being here. I really enjoy our time together because you're a really vibrant human being. So being around you is fun.
Thank you.
You have this great energy, and you always have these interesting ideas. I mostly know you through Master Gardening, and we're on the social media teams. So there's always these ideas rolling around, and you're so well spoken, and you're also stylish. Like, there's just so many things about you that I like. So I'm so grateful that you're here and that we get to talk a little bit about all the things that you've done and that you're doing.
Oh, Callie. Go on. Wow.
Well, I mean it. I mean every word of it.
Well, thank you.
So before we get going too far, do you want to kind of just quickly tell everybody kind of who you are?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of new people in this valley, right?
Yes.
Right? Which is kind of cool because, to be honest, less and less I get recognized, out in the community, which is actually not a bad thing, Came here in '88 to work for Channel 7. Prior to that, I was very, very familiar with Idaho. My dad came up to Idaho and bought Pomerelle Mountain Resort, the ski resort outside of Burley.
No kidding.
So, yeah. So, I'd been in Idaho since the early 70s, hanging out at Pomerelle. And so I was over in Pocatello, and then I kind of got recruited by KTVB and loved my time there. Loved it. Stayed there for about 10 years and then had the opportunity to strike out on my own. And that's when I started my own business called Communication Outsource. And I contracted with Bogus Basin. That after several years before, I said, I will never work in the ski business again.
It drew you back in.
It did. Well, I understood the differences between like a bull wheel and a shiv wheel on a lift. And so the wonderful managers at Bogus said, hey, come on and work for us. You can do it from your home. And I was a contractor, and it allowed me to raise my little family and also raise them up on the mountain. So, all 5 of our kids were at the mountain every winter.
That's so cool.
And then left there after I wrote a couple books. One did really well, and actually kind of went back to work for my family. And I've been doing that ever since. I have been helping them with marketing at Pomerelle. Wrote this chicken book that has, had a couple printings and probably needs an update and another printing. And I had friends, good friends. In fact, Mary used to do the Zamzo's podcast.
Yes.
And she said, Gretchen, you need some street cred. You better go to and get your certification as a master gardener. Wow. Because through the book for the chickens, there was a line of sustainability, throughout it. And so I did that. And then the next obvious thing you do is you go get your Master Food Safety Advisor certification, which is a long title for somebody who can take the food that you get from your garden and properly preserve it so you don't kill anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That is key.
Yeah, that is key. And it's been loads of fun, and I've so enjoyed it, and I've continued with all of that. So I'm now kind of into that whole sustainability thing, and my husband came home after 20, more than that, but in 2018, he traveled because he ran restaurants. And we bought 3 restaurants here in the valley and managed them through COVID. And then in 22, we said, Uncle,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And so since 2022 or 23, the years escape me, but now we're empty nesters, and I'm right on the edge of retirement. So it's really cool. So much to do. And I swear to God, we are so much more busy, it seems, than we ever were. So it's pretty cool stuff. So that's it in a nutshell.
Oh,
how's that?
Well, this is great. You teed it up perfectly, and now we can kind of dive into some of the things that you mentioned. Can we start with the journalism?
Sure.
And could you share with us kind of what drew you into that?
Good question. I knew I wanted to be a writer in grade school, like fifth grade. I said, I like this. I like being able to express myself and tell stories. So I've been writing since that time. And through high school, was on the newspaper staff, all that stuff. And then thought I'd get a job with the Utah Holiday magazine because I was born and raised in Salt Lake. And that fell through for various reasons. And I ended up spending 2 gap years before I went to college. And went over to University of Oregon where they had a crack journalism program and hung out there for 4 years. And then after that, I think, Callie, I knew because I had been in radio. I started in radio right when I was 18 years old. But I knew that I got a job in Eugene, Springfield as a reporter, and I was in the right room at the right second, not the right place at the right time. It was more granular like that.
Wow.
We need a reporter. Are you free? Yeah, come on. And so that's how I got my first reporting job. Went from there to Pocatello and then up here to Boise. Loved it. And after I left Channel 7, I continued to write. I wrote a humor column for a paper that is no longer in business, but a paper out in Eagle, Middleton, a small paper that served that area, Star, that area. And it was a lot of fun. A humor column, because I could write about anything I wanted.
That's awesome.
And it was fun.
So what do you think it is about writing that you like so much?
I think turn of phrase is a lot of fun. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end in terms of writing. And often when I wrote that humor column, I'd start it and I'd be definitely thinking about the end because I wanted a turn of phrase, in it. I also think that writing, for me at least, might be what my husband gets when he crunches numbers. He gets all giddy and digs them, and if the numbers work out, it's like a little endorphin rush. Or a runner who gets that endorphin rush. You know, that's what writing does for me.
Yeah. I feel the same way. And also it's funny because my husband is also the one who would get a rush over numbers. So I get the same. I get that same thing. I find when I read something that somebody else has written that is magical, where it makes you think, and then you got to think again, and then you read it again. There's something really. I mean, it literally is life-changing for me.
It can be very profound.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even in television right now, in fact, Buster and I my husband Buster, we were watching Ghosts last night. We're trying to catch up on, we're streaming it. And there was such clever writing. Yeah. I just wanted to rewind it and listen to it again because the writing was so clever.
I love that. Sometimes I think in another life I maybe could write for SNL or something like that. Wouldn't that be fun?
You go, girl.
Although wouldn't that be exhausting? I mean, it is.
If you've ever read Tina Fey's book about the whole, process of writing, it is. I think it is exhausting, but I think they're on adrenaline all the time, and that endorphin push,
Yeah, absolutely. What is looking back? Is there something that you've written that makes you particularly proud, or that you're like, oh yeah, that was it. That was the thing that I wrote that I was like, yeah.
That's great because I there's a lot out there. I am very proud of the chicken book that I wrote, but I think that the coolest thing that I did and still gets airplay, I wrote and produced and worked with a fabulous photographer, a piece called The Fading Fish, and it's with the department, it's with Fish and Game for Idaho, and it was about salmon and steelhead. And how they are anadromous, meaning they can go from fresh water to salt water. But the crux of the story is our decline in salmon in Idaho, and it's a sad deal. But I wrote it and we filmed it in the style of the Kratz brothers. If you've ever seen the Kratz brothers on PBS,
like Wild Kratz, like
yeah, like that.
I saw plenty of that when Ralphie was little.
Of course, didn't we all? Right, that and Bill Nye the Science Guy. So I got to write it for fourth graders. And that's where it was served, was to all of these wonderful fourth graders in all of Idaho.
Wow.
But I don't think a fourth grader is going to come up to me and go, "Hey, Gretchen, nice work on that video." But I did get parents, and I got older people always coming up to me saying, "Hey, I saw your fish video, and that was really good." And I thought, maybe I need to dial it back and write more for a fourth grade level.
Well, that's tricky. That when trying to get a fourth grader to understand something and from their perspective, so you had to do some work to like start at the end and work backwards.
I really
in
did.
some ways. Yeah,
I really did. It was a lot of fun, and it's an award-winning piece, and you can find it on YouTube these days, which is even more cool.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, The Fading Fish.
The Fading Fish.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, yeah, I could go on and on about the writing. Let's keep talking about the writing, and let's talk about the chicken book.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that so when I first started to get to know you, it was all Master Gardener stuff, and then I quickly learned that you were this chicken guru. So tell us about the book.
The book came about. It was published in 2011, believe it or not, and it still has legs, which is just surprising me every day. And it came about because I read an article in the New Yorker magazine about people fighting for the right to have chickens in their backyard. You know, the simplest thing. Why do they have to fight? Well, they're fighting their municipalities, their cities or the counties, because there just weren't really any rules to it when it took off, when the fad took off. But this is long term. I don't think it's so much as a fad. And so I wanted to find out what was happening in Idaho, and I wanted to find out what was happening across the country. And I soon learned that it was huge across the country. There were fights everywhere. So the name of the book is the Backyard Chicken Fight, and it's a play on words, meaning that these people have to fight for the right to keep hens in their backyard. At that time, Idaho was a chicken-loving state, but we've had some fights here for sure in the past. But I wrote about all sorts of fun stories, and I'm a humorist at heart, so the funny ones really kind of sat with me. The poignant ones, of course, are in there as well. And then I also worked with one of your longtime employees at Zamzo's, who taught me a great deal about chickens. I had chickens when I was a kid. And when I worked with Mike Stanton from Zamzo's, I realized we did everything wrong, and those chickens still survived. So it was a great education, and I put it all in a guide and a sweet little book that's easy to read, and it's quick. I'm a fan of, if you're going to tell me what to do, please just make it quick between point A, point B, get to the facts, and let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm tactical like that. And it's still, I'm still teaching people how to keep chickens and what to do in the winter time. And I've taught from coast to coast. I've been all over the place. And fortunately, I was in Costco for a while with the book. And so it's done very well.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful guide for people. I think that, well, I know that because we see it, that the chicken fad kind of comes in waves. So kind of like, so there'll be really, really big years. This year, I guess, well, the 2025, well, the year just ended. Big spring chicken year.
Right.
And it kind of goes in waves. Do you know why that is? Tell us about that.
Egg recalls. Yeah. Salmonella. And getting eggs from what they call CAFOs, big factory farms, that sort of thing. And when there's a recall of 500,000 cartons of eggs, over and over again, or 500,000, to 1 million eggs, then that people want to be more responsible and own where their food comes from.
Yeah.
And, you know, our food mile, Callie, as you well know, is 1,500 miles. That's farm to fork. And when you can go out back and Gail and Oprah, the two girls in the coop, they're best friends, are laying you 2 eggs a day, and you can make your own breakfast. You are significantly, you know, lowering your personal food mile. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
And you can make it a lot healthier in the sense that what we do with our chickens happens to the eggs. So
Absolutely.
we can make our eggs healthier for us. And I always think it's interesting when people start to see it like flare up on social media and people are like, well, why is this egg yolk so yellow? Like it's almost orange.
Yes. Yes. Cool story. I taught a class out in Caldwell once, and a lady in the back got up and she raised her hand and she said, I just have to tell you, you got to warn your neighbors. You know, you got to warn your neighbors about these fantastic eggs, she said. I handed a dozen eggs over to my neighbors over the fence, and a week later I found out they threw them all away because the yolks were orange.
Oh my
So you have to
gosh.
tell them why. And if you don't know why, backyard chicken eggs are more nutritious for you. The more brilliant color is caused because they have a more varied diet and they get sunshine and they get to
Yes.
run and flap their wings and that sort of thing.
They're happier.
They're happy hens.
And I say this to people and they think I'm nuts, but if you've been around chickens, they have personalities. They're wonderful birds.
They are.
They're very interesting. And they are pet-like. You can actually hold them, and you know, depending upon how they were raised and all that fun stuff. But they're wonderful.
They are. My kids, I once told my kids that my chickens bring me joy. And they said, Mom, you need to get a life. But you're right. They're entertaining and they're fun, and you know which one likes you more and which one's the top of the roost, and you know, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great. I encourage anybody who's semi thinking about doing it and has the space for it should consider doing it. I think it's I think it's a wonderful thing. Of course, there might be a little bit of a fight. Although, what is the current situation? Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. What's the current situation as far as it being within Boise City limits and having chickens? Do we know what the current?
Oh, sure. Good question. Many years ago, there were a bunch of wannabe chicken keepers who were also attorneys, and they went to work on a agriculture ordinance. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Agriculture ordinance. And they came up with chickens, for example. You could have 6 chickens in the city of Boise. Prior to that, I want to say it was 3. And people kept, you know, I'm hand, you know, they kept like 7 chickens.
Right.
Make sure they all look alike and just let 3 out at a time.
Right.
Right. But they approved 6 chickens. They also approved being able to share vegetables from your garden and fruit and maybe even selling it. And it was very thoughtful. And these wonderful people just ran it through City Council of Boise, and they approved it. No problems whatsoever.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, we have some attorneys to thank for that. Chicken loving attorneys. How's
Yeah,
that?
that's good.
Yeah.
Good story. Thank you for telling us that. Okay, can we shift gears to Bogus Basin? And part of the reason why I want to do this is that before I ever even knew you as a person, you were the voice in the morning telling us what the snow conditions were at Bogus Basin. And I remember that, tuning into it. You know, and here's the funny thing. It was usually on, like, I was probably heading out to school. So it wasn't like I was getting to go up and ski, but I wanted to know the snow report every day.
All skiers and snowboarders want to know that.
Right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that time in your life.
You just reminded me of a great story. So we were headed to Oregon, and I'm working as Bogus Basin spokeswoman at the time and doing marketing for them, and my daughter and I are at a rest stop, and we're in the ladies' room doing our business, and I'm talking to my daughter over the stall, and person next to me goes, "Oh my God, is that Gretchen Anderson?"
That's awesome.
Cue the eye roll of my daughter. Oh, she's getting recognized while she's doing her business. Yeah, there was that.
That's awesome.
But, it was a great platform. Everybody loves Bogus Basin. It's a nonprofit resort. It's one of very few in the country, and one that is very successful. And my background in skiing really just paved the way for me in that position. And I was there for 15 years and got to raise the kids there. We have 5 total. When I married Buster, he had 2 kids, so it was a package deal, and it was wonderful. And I honor Whit and Zach, my 2 stepkids, who have made life a lot easier for me. But Hannah, Woody, and Miles came after that, and it's been a wild ride with all 5 of them. But it's been wonderful to raise them up there. Bogus Basin, fantastic experience. Learned a lot. I think I did a pretty good job for them. And then the old guard pretty much left at a certain point, and I felt, this is the time to go, and I did as well.
Those transitions are challenging in life. If somebody's listening who is maybe in the middle of transitioning from something that they've done for 15 years and now they're making a scary change, what sort of advice would you give somebody?
Oh, I think your instant reaction to it is, I got to find something that's just like it, and I got to keep going, right? And my advice would be just chill out. Chill the you-know-what out for like a month or 2, and just let it wash over you, because there is life after it. And you always bounce back, I think.
Yeah.
My sweet sister, who's been running Pomerelle for 40 years now, really has been the main driver, is retiring, and she's facing the same thing. I need to call her and tell her to do that.
You can use the actual words. Yeah, transitions can be very challenging. Yeah, and a little bit scary.
Yeah, I've had those transitions, and I think when you replace a transition with something new and unknown, you have to become a little vulnerable. I remember, I think maybe it was after I left Bogus that I became a master gardener. It was right after I put out the chicken book, and the chicken book did well and continues to do well. So I think I became a master gardener, and I was so worried, Callie, that they were going to have science, as part of it,
I got a biology degree, and I was worried about the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I was going back to take this course, 20 years after college. So I was like, what if I can't do it?
Yeah.
I was so intimidated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you make yourself a little vulnerable. And the beautiful part about that is you go in being intimidated and vulnerable, and then you come out the other end and you can pat yourself on the back for putting yourself out there and doing it.
Yeah.
You get there.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about the continual learning. I think to stay able to learn, you have to continue to learn.
Absolutely.
So I think when we stop, or if we have pauses in that, that's when we begin to have fear builds up and we start making up stuff in our heads. But
right.
if we just stay the course and continue to constantly be feeding our brains, then you don't have those moments of panic.
What am I going to do?
Exactly. What am I going to do with myself?
Exactly.
So still talking about Bogus, are there any fun side, like behind the scenes stories that happened while you were there? I just, having grown up on that mountain as well, and it's just kind of, there's so much, I hear about little stories here and there about things that happen on the mountain. And I just wonder if you being a part of that, is there anything that sticks out in your mind as something interesting that happened while you were there?
A couple things, I think. One, and it just has to do with me. I get motion sickness coming up in an elevator.
Oh.
It's just that. And so that road to Bogus Basin, I always have to drive it. And if I don't drive it slowly, I'll make myself sick.
Oh, man.
And it is what it is, and it was what it was. And so 15 years of doing that, I was driving up on Easter. I had my daughter with me, and we're headed up, and I was going to put on a bunny suit and go around and hand out eggs to everybody. Yeah, there you go. So I did. But before we got there, we're driving up. I've got the suit in the back. Hannah is sitting in the passenger seat. She's old enough to be there. And I'm driving, and I'm trying to get there in a hurry. And the Land Cruiser does a 180. Actually, a 360. It was a 360. Oh. No cars around, just a little too fast. And it does a 360. And I remember Hannah saying, "Mom, make it stop." Yeah. And got up there. And so that was one thing that told me that road is not a road for anybody to be in a hurry.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, you just don't want to be in a hurry. And the other one was a great from a public relations standpoint and communication and public information officer standpoint. We had a gas leak that went into the water system, and I had to work with the EPA, and what it taught me is you are proactive in all the information that you can give the public and the EPA, and make sure that you're doing everything you can to resolve the situation. And it actually got written up in a magazine and became kind of an industry standard in terms of how you handle a crisis situation and have a plan in your back pocket.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm guessing you hadn't ever dealt with something like that before.
Not to that degree. No, not at that level. But it was a learning experience, and we were forthright. And I remember Mike Shirley at the time said, "You have nothing to hide. You tell them everything." And it was good, because I had that license to just be able to talk and say exactly what we were doing to mitigate the situation.
Isn't it interesting how situations like that, obviously there's a moment of panic, and then you start to put it all together. There is a point when leaders decide they're either going to manage it and on the up and up, so to say, or leave some things out and try to, I'm just going to
get around it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's really only one right way to do that, but the other way is just so messy and complicated, and we see it all the time in the news where you think, well, why didn't you just do this
every
to begin
single
with?
day? Yeah. You have to lie about the lies these days.
Exactly.
It's not good. Yeah.
But there is a moment with all of that where, as a leader, it's scary, and there's the unknown, and there's the, you don't know how the public's going to react. And what was that moment like?
Well, it was a little surreal, but Bogus Basin is so beloved. I think everybody had our backs. Yeah. And understanding that we were trying to do everything we could in our power to make things right.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
Gosh.
I mean, it was a while ago. I guess my
20 years ago,
okay,
maybe.
Yeah. I guess my point is that I feel like there may be less of a willingness to be kind about those kind of things nowadays. I hope this is not true. I hope I'm just making this up, but it feels like some things happen and we're very quick to judge as a public.
Absolutely. And and when you said that, it helped that I knew everybody at every single television station and knew everyone in radio and at the newspaper. And we were a known entity, and that helped. Yeah. Because they knew what they could get from me. Yeah.
Well, and that comes from building relationships. You are a relationship builder. You've spent your whole life doing that.
Thank you.
One person at a time. And I'm one of them. I feel so grateful for that. Oh, but, I think that's a good lesson for anybody who's listening, who's maybe youthful and trying to decide, where they could put their energies. Building relationships is never a bad place to put your energy.
Not at all. Not at all. It's always a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about how you and I know each other. Let's go into the Master Gardener. We talked a little bit about the fact that we both were a little scared to go back and take the classes and all that fun stuff. But let's talk about that journey and what it has done what has it brought into your life being a master gardener?
I think one thing, it's made me realize that I think everybody should go through the Master Gardener
I feel the same way.
program. Yeah, if you have grass out front, you should be in the Master Gardener program.
Yes, if you're walking on the earth, you should be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree.
Absolutely.
It goes well beyond gardening.
Yeah, long time ago when I was at Channel 7, Buster asked me, he said, if money weren't an issue and you could do anything you wanted, what would it be? And I said, I'd write, I'd garden, and I'd raise my kids. Maybe not in that order, but that's what I would do. And I remember him saying, well, let's get you there. And so that's how the whole switch from Channel 7 and then what I did afterward happened. I also started having little kids. We had Whit and Zach, and then I had Hannah and Woody, and then Miles came a few years later. And I didn't want to pay somebody else to raise my kids. I didn't have kids to do that, and so I wanted to be home. Surely, some of those early morning ski reports, I had to lock myself in the closet to do and hope my kids wouldn't come after me.
Oh, I just love the thought of that.
They survived. But it was such a great time. So the question was, how did I get to the Master Gardener program? It was Mary who suggested it. We were having dinner one night up at Bogus Basin, actually. And then I signed up for it and absolutely loved it. And she said, "You check out the Canyon County program because the Ada County program always has a waiting list."
Yeah.
And so went to the Canyon County program, had a ball, had a blast with that, learned lots of stuff. I had those NSMs. We called them no shit moments. Oh my God, you're kidding. You can't do that? Oh, you're supposed to do that? Oh.
Whoops.
Yeah. Whoops. Exactly. And they continued with the preservation training, the food preservation training that I had. It really, it was even more so because if you don't do things right, you'll kill somebody.
Yes.
Right.
I remember my mother did that when I was a kid. And she put the fear of God in us. So she was, I'm canning. I need to not have anybody be interrupting me right now. It was a big deal. And then she, as we're eating, probably some canned tomatoes, she's telling us a story about how somebody accidentally killed their whole family by, and we're like, wow, Mom, this is great.
Yeah, let's push the tomatoes away, right?
Exactly. I don't want these now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mom, are you sure you followed all of the instructions? This is really important. Yeah. But it's, they definitely,
botulism kind of chills the thing.
Yeah, as it turns out.
Yeah. But loved the training and there are a lot of people who go through the training and don't really continue with their training. When you do, like you and I have, we become advanced master gardeners, and that is so much fun, and it's a community, and I think that's a huge thing these days. Is we're lacking community. We see fewer people, involved in their church stuff, and we see fewer people involved in service groups, Rotary, the Elks, the Lions Club, and so you have to wonder where are people getting their community. Yeah. And we do have it with the Master Gardeners, which is really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was an end of season dinner. I don't know. It's been a couple of weeks ago now, and I brought my husband. I guess I had not brought him to anything yet.
The mystery husband.
The mystery husband. So we brought him. I brought him along, and we were having these wonderful conversations. And then as we were walking away, he said, "I had no idea that." I didn't realize who these people were and why it is that you like to do this. It's kind of a head scratcher to him because obviously there's a certain amount of volunteer hours you have to give and that sort of thing to stay active and, to...
And education.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, exactly.
Continued education.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he, a lot of times I think it feels burdensome to him a little bit because it's like, oh, well, Callie's working on an article that they're posting, so we can't do such and such. But after he met them, he was like, these are the salt of the earth people. These are just... they're just normal, and and they love gardening, and they're good humans.
Absolutely.
And I was glad that he got to experience them. And of course, our leader, Brad, there's nobody quite like him.
You're right.
He's really something. I always love to expose people to him because he's very unique, and talk about somebody who's full of life.
Yeah. Fart in a frying pan, man. That guy. He's got great ideas, and he's hung in there.
And a big heart
with us. Yeah, big heart.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk to somebody who is thinking, well, gosh, this sounds kind of interesting, but I didn't even go to college. I didn't this, I didn't that. How would I be able to pass this class? Is it too much? Let's talk to him about the brass tacks here, because the truth of the matter is it's very doable.
Absolutely. I was going to say you and I both had the same trepidation.
Yes.
Going into it, but you quickly learn that there are so many cool aspects to it, and I'm not sure what your specialty is, but when you become a master gardener, you kind of gravitate to what really interests you. I love my master gardener friends who are, the bug people.
Yeah. I love the bug people
the
too.
critters in the garden, right?
Yeah.
What the heck is this thing? And then those people who really know their trees. Love that. But I've gravitated to edible gardening. And so what did you do, Kelly?
I did junior master gardener, so teaching.
Bless your heart.
I love that. I haven't, the last couple of years I've kind of backed away from that just because my plate has been a little bit too full, but I think I will return to that because I love seeing kids have aha moments when it comes to, seeds and fruits and vegetables that they're like, whoa, I grew this thing. I love that. It's magical, and it's just really fun. It's enjoyable.
When they learn and understand where their food comes from.
Exactly.
That's
it's
pretty
very
cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really fun. Have you ever gone over to Bugs, to the Boise Urban Garden School? And
I know what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, they do it really well there too. That's a cool. They've got a great program, and their garden is beautiful. So it's fun. It's kind of fun just to go and meander around and say, "Oh, this is what a garden should look like."
Sure. Not like the mess I have in my backyard.
Exactly. I was laughing about this last summer because Rafi was getting ready to go off to college, and we just had so many things going on that I just planted 2 tomato plants, and that's it. And remember, it's what time of year it is now. They're still sitting there. I have not taken them down. I haven't done anything with them. And I know that's not very master gardener of me, but it's what happened.
Here's the deal. I learned from my, it was our postmaster, one of them. She said that she never takes down her tomatoes until like February.
Oh.
She said because then they all dry out. You can just clip around the cages, take that outer part off, and then pull up your cage and grab the other thing and yank it out of the ground. And it's less biomass that you have to, put wherever you're going to put it. I hope you're composting it. But that so I'm with you, Callie.
Look at that.
I'm
doing it right.
You're good, girl. Don't sweat it.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know that. That's incredibly great. That's great news.
You feel better already.
I do.
You?
I don't feel like such a bad Zamzo and master gardener all in one. Oh my gosh. Wow. You have chosen to do quite a few things within the master gardener community. What is your favorite thing?
Really good question. I have to say my own personal garden.
Yeah.
I really do. That's my favorite thing. I love the people. I love that we have a vibrant social media arm of our Canyon County Master Gardeners. But most of all, my garden is my sanctuary. I only grow what we eat. And guess who I learned that from? Your grandpa.
Really?
Bernie. Yep. I spent the day with him one day in his garden, and he took me into the kitchen and showed me all the stuff that he would put up. And I said, Bernie, do you ever go to the market? He said, only to get milk and meat on occasion. But it was so cool to watch him, I think in his late 90s, carry water these water pails on both sides. And, he grew what he ate for the year. Yeah. And I'm sure he gave quite a bit of it away. But
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm growing what I eat and drink these days. I don't mean to monopolize this, but you got to know. So I was in New York with my kids, and we went down to this great little restaurant called Time and Tonic, just closed, unfortunately. And Hannah and I, it was just Hannah and I, we're sitting at the bar. It was happy hour. And I keep watching these green drinks go out. And I finally asked the bartender, I said, what are those drinks? And they said, hey, it's our specialty right now. We take cucumbers and we juice them and we make margarita out of them. And I said, oh, bring it on. The horticulturists in me wanted to know, how good is this? Because we've all had stuff muddled with cucumber or something like that. And I said, can you muddle a jalapeno in there as well? And they said, done. And they served me this drink, and it's been my favorite cocktail ever since. So what did I do? I went home, and the next year I grew a ton of cucumbers. And so when they'd come on, I juice them and freeze them in those big ice cubes. And so my husband will whiz them up in his magic bullet, and I'm a happy gal.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Just going back to my grandfather very quickly, you were talking about, yes, he was in his 90s. Yeah. I have a picture of him up on we were stopping by to say hi to him, and he was up on the top rung of a ladder up in his apple tree, trimming his apple tree at age 96. Oh. The guy was remarkable.
Yes, he was.
Absolutely remarkable. And yes, he did. He always sent us with food. He always had something. And, oh, you want a rutabaga? And we'd be like, well, Nish, you need to eat your rutabaga. All right, Grandpa, send me with the rutabaga. Mm-hmm. And then we'd be like, what do we do with rutabaga? Like, it was just, he was so wonderful about all the things that he sent our way. And he was very generous with everybody. But his garden was massive.
It was massive. And it was, I think it was on like a half an acre.
Yeah.
And right behind the Zamzow store on Fairview.
Exactly.
And the yard was all garden.
Yep.
And I thought, this is what we need. Instead of, wasting our time with turf, lots of grass, why don't we, put in plants that give back to us?
Yeah.
And I do know, don't get me wrong, now the turf people are going to go, what are you talking about? What about that Zamzow's lawn program?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, our cash cow. So, but there is a purpose for turf. And my husband, when each kid has left for college, he's taken out more and more lawn, and we've just done more garden we're just under half acre. But I said, we got to keep that turf because it cools the property. It's, Yeah, and the dogs need a place. Come on.
Yeah.
Get real.
You got I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little off script, but I just want to share with the community what you're willing to share about your children, because you have remarkable kids who are doing remarkable, really cool things. Will you share what's happening in your kids' lives right now?
Yes, because now I'm just their mom. That's what I am. It's true. For a long time, it was like, I'm Gretchen Anderson's daughter. But not anymore, because they are doing such an amazing thing right now. But first of all, I want to tell you, I listened to that sweet podcast when Rafi surprised you and asked you all those questions, and kind of it brought tears to my eyes because, your kids are your kids, and you are going through a time right now, Callie, where you have been her mom. And that's how you've identified for, 18 years. Yep. And now she's gone. And so you kind of have to, chill the F out and let it wash over you. And then the other thing that is gone when you have people in theater in your home is you lose that energy in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Where you would hear them either practicing monologues or singing. Our sweet neighbors know us as the home where the two kids, it was Woody and Miles, would mow the lawn. They'd put their headphones on and they would belt.
Oh,
They would sing like nobody's business.
That's awesome.
Yeah, while they mowed the lawn. And so all our neighbors know, oh, Woody's home, or oh, there's Miles. Anyhow, thank you for asking. They are all in theater, and Buster and I, the three of them, it's because the two, Whit and Zach, went back to be with their mom, and we had 1 month left in 2005 where we were worried about them having too much screen time, too much Game Boy, too much computer, and too much, right in front of the TV. So we said, okay, screen free August, and we'll see how it goes. And that's when they discovered theater. We took them up to Starlight Mountain Theater. Yeah. And they saw Annie, the musical, where there are a bunch of kids on stage. And prior to this, they'd been in choir, and they had been in Mad Camp at church, music, art, and drama. And our son was the stumbling shepherd and the pageant one Christmas. And so they'd kind of had, dipped their toe in it, but they all looked at that, and I think they said, I can do that. I want to go do that.
So cool.
And they were busy in high school with athletics and student council and marching band, and it all boiled down to, no, it's theater. It's still theater. So all three of them went and got their theater degrees. And
so awesome.
Yeah,
I want to go to your house at Christmas.
One has their master's in classical acting from Lambda in London.
Yeah, wow.
And then our son Woody is getting his master's right now in professional acting from the University of Houston.
Oh, very cool.
But they have international stage work done between the three of them. Shakespeare here in Boise, Idaho Shakes, and 2 Broadway tours under their belts. And so they're the real deal. They could they could have easily not succeeded in some other business. And we said, if this is what you want to do, let's run it up the flagpole.
Yeah.
And see what comes of it. I remember saying, well, somebody's kid's got to, go to Broadway, right? I remember saying that. And to that point, now I have a niece and a nephew who are currently on tour.
Oh, wow.
One is in A Beautiful Noise. She is understudy for the lead, and she's in chorus. And that's if you don't know it, that's the Neil Diamond story.
Yeah.
So you all know the music, and
Yes.
you're tapping your toes, right?
Womp, womp,
Yeah.
womp.
And the other one is a trombone player in Book of Mormon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he got his start because Woody was on tour with South Pacific, and they lost their trombone player. And Woody said, hey, my cousin
Right place, right time.
has
right
his
people.
master's in trombone performance. How's that for being so granular?
Oh
And
gosh.
so they're on tour. But the biggest thing they're doing right now is they're making their own art, and they're doing their own storytelling. So they all grew up with a love for D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. And they took that love with some friends, and now it's tabletop role playing. Some of your listeners probably know about this stuff, and they are now in the top 20 in the country. And it is amazing what they've done. It's emerging media. They stream their tabletop role games, and they tell stories. It's storytelling and improv at its best, and they act weekly. I kept saying to them, don't you think it's time to go to an audition? And sweet Hannah said, Mom, I'm tired of waiting for people to tell me yes. I'm going to do this. And so it's called Bards of New York. So Bards is in reference to Shakespeare, right? Bards of New York. And it's not their day job yet, but they've monetized it. They have sponsors. They've been written up in Business Insider. They received 2 Crit Awards, which is the critical role of Dungeons and Dragons. They just won those awards this past year, and they've partnered with big organizations back in New York. And so every day they put their microphones in front of them and their headphones on, and they tell stories. And they have a worldwide audience, and literally you can watch it, and everybody is commenting on the right side. It's on Twitch and it's on YouTube, Bards of New York, and it's their community. It's a community, and that's what the Business Insider story was about, was how these millennials and Gen Z, or how, all of those together, how they find community, and they have found it in this. And it is so cool to watch them.
Awesome.
Woody has to take 3 years off. He pops in and out every once in a while, but because of his master's work, he's not doing it right now. And then the former dungeon master is on tour with 20-Sided Tavern, which is a musical about D&D, and he plays one of the roles on that. So
wow.
Yeah, they're and they come in and out of it, but there are the originals, and then they've built it out a little bit, and very inclusive and very supportive, and it is a great community. I'll pop in every once in a while. They stream live on Wednesdays. And I'll pop in every once in a while and say, "Hey, greetings from Idaho. I'm wishing you all a great great show." And it's there's the Minshew's mom and blah blah blah. And yeah, it's the mom.
Oh, well, I got to tell you, before I had discussed with you that my daughter was planning on going to New York, I was kind of in my own little world. I was like, nobody else, none of Rafi's friends were thinking of going to New York. Nobody was thinking about doing theater. Nobody was, so I didn't have anybody. And I remember that I think it was about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we were at a dinner, and I made a side comment about it. Looks like my daughter might be going to New York to do theater. And you lit up.
Oh.
And you said, it's the best thing. And you were the first person who I knew who had kids who had gone and done this successfully and were living these wonderful, happy lives. And you looked perfectly happy as well. And I was like, okay, I think there might be life after this if she decides to do this. And it's turned out it's served me well knowing you and watching how you and your kids have managed this change of them being so far away, but doing these really cool, exciting things and what their hearts love.
Yeah.
Letting your kids do what they want to do. It really did help me as a friend. You helped me kind of show me the way to know that it was going to be okay. Yeah.
That's wonderful. You know what it does is that, now they're all on the East Coast, but for Woody, because he's in Houston, but he'll go back to New York. And so we've got them in Florida and New York. And what it does is it just makes your world that much bigger.
Yeah.
And if you have the wherewithal to visit, that's even better. It's pretty crazy. I remember when he first said, "I want to go to New York to go to school," and I went,
That's so far away.
It was, the farthest Hannah had gone, and Zach and Whit did Florida State and school in Laurinburg, North Carolina, St. Andrews. That was far, but both Miles and Hannah did, and your listeners will understand, a day's drive away from us, which I knew as mom, I can get to them in a day.
Yeah.
And with Woody, I could fly to him within a day. You get there. It opens up your world.
Yeah.
You just get a bigger world. And then so when Hannah announced that she wanted to go to London for school, it's like, that's more than a day's flight.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get after
Boy, these
it.
kids.
Yeah, these kids. But I honor you. I honor you for your going through what I did, where you were somebody's mom, in the immediate, here and now.
Yeah.
That changes. And then the energy changes. And I'm sure a lot of listeners can understand that. When your kids move out and you become true empty nesters and the kids aren't like bouncing back to you,
Yeah.
It is an adjustment.
Yeah.
But be patient. You'll find your groove.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. What I've realized, and I said this to you before we started the podcast, but I didn't realize how much it mattered that she be happy. If she's happy, I'm doing all right, and she's very happy. So,
ooh, one more thing.
Yeah.
One thing I learned when I went to Westminster with Hannah. they had a seminar for the parents for first time, college. I had Whit and Zach, but this was Hannah, the one who looks like me and acts like me, and sometimes we can get after it. They said the first week or two of school, only text them because there's bound to be a great deal of homesickness. And if you hear them on the phone crying and upset, you're going to say, okay, come home.
Hurry, come home.
Yeah. But if you get that 2 weeks under your belt and then you start talking to them, it's a much better thing because they need time to adjust. We all need time to adjust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the best advice I got. So I'm passing it on to everyone else.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody is listening. I know that we're helping somebody.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Nobody Knowz is brought to you by Zamzows, your local source for garden, pet, and planet-friendly products. Whether you're raising chickens, tending a backyard garden, or just trying to live a little closer to nature, Zamzows is here to help. Visit zamzows.com or stop by any of our 12 Treasure Valley locations.
Nobody knows like Zamzows.
Okay, it's time to shift gears to the part we call sharing is caring. These are rapid fire questions.
Love that.
All right, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, how about a gardening practice or plant that you're loving right now?
Aside from the cucumbers.
Yes.
I love a plant that gives back every single year. So my fruit is fantastic. My blackberries are fabulous. Yeah, blackberries. But I think I would have to say I discovered, is it pozole or pozole?
yeah.
It's a Mexican soup. I discovered a recipe last year on Food and Wine, the website, and it's their most downloaded recipe. And so I made it once, and it was to die for, this soup. And I had never cooked with hominy before. So that was a first for me. But I thought, okay, I need poblano peppers for this recipe. I need tomatillos and onions. Those are the big ones. So I said, those are the ones I'm going to grow this year.
Nice.
So that was it.
Ooh, that's good. That is one of the things about empty nesting. You get to just make food that you want to make
and want to eat all day
worry
long.
about the kids. That's a great answer. All right, how about a favorite local business, a grower, or a market that you'd recommend?
Okay, having gone through the pandemic, operating a restaurant, and restaurants, plural, I would say if you have a favorite market or a grower or a restaurant, frequent them. If Zamzows is your favorite, frequent it. Because if you don't, you're in jeopardy of losing it. And I remember Buster saying, if we don't do that, we're going to lose some of our favorite restaurants, right?
It's true.
And
we did, a lot of them.
Wepa was one of them. And in fact, he referenced that and said, let's go to Wepa. That was one of our favorite little restaurants in Garden City. So it's you know what? If you don't frequent them and speak with your pocketbook in terms of your support, it's very difficult. Margins are so small, as you know.
Yeah.
Margins, what it costs to procure the item, especially with tariffs right now,
Right.
and then what you have to sell it for, so that your people don't go, oh my gosh, this is too expensive.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So frequent. I would just take that minute to get on my soapbox and say, frequent the ones you love.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
That's great. How about a book or a show that you go back to for joy or inspiration?
I think it's the movie you've never heard of. The best movie you've never heard of. It is called About Time. Oh, it just gives me chills thinking about it. I've probably seen it 20 times. Every time I cry, of course, but it is the most wonderful movie. And it's not necessarily because of the actors, although the acting is superb. It's the message of the movie, and it's called About Time. This is how I found out about it. My husband, flying back from, I think, wherever, probably Florida, he said, I wasn't going to watch a movie, but then I turned this one on. It kind of looked interesting. My husband doesn't talk like that.
Mine does.
But he says,
I'm just kidding.
he said, at the end of it, I was crying. You've got to see it, Gretchen. And so we watched it get together, and then the whole family, and then, it's kind of, it's rippled out, but it's called About Time. And you'll thank me later.
Okay.
All right.
I've written it down.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Okay. So this is the last question.
Yeah.
And this is the one that we ask all of our guests that aren't here. So are you ready?
Yes.
What is something that nobody knows?
I've tried to think about that, and if it's no one, it would embarrass me.
That's true, right?
So I had to think about what it is that people could go, oh, cool, or oh, all right, that's interesting, that maybe just a few people know. And I landed on, I'm an ordained minister, have been since 2019, and I love conducting marriages. Love it.
Oh.
Love it. It scratches that itch in terms of being able to write about the couple.
Yeah.
I go into it knowing that, this isn't about me, it's about them, and it's about the guests there to stand up for these two people, right? Or celebrate them. And so it's a challenge in terms of writing, but I have loved every single second. I get the willies, the all overs.
Yeah.
I get a little nervous before I start it, and Kelly, that kind of stuff hasn't happened for a long time.
Aww.
So it gives me those endorphins, and I dig it. I've done big weddings and I've done little weddings, and I did a little wedding over in Veterans Memorial Park. There is an old tree that's I think it's kind of almost a dead tree that, like, if you're going from the park back to the river, you'll see it. It's, depending on which side you're on, it's closer to those apartments that are along VPM.
Okay. Yeah.
The VMP, Veterans Memorial Parkway. Yeah. The wedding was in there. It kind of looks like, I thought, if it wasn't a wedding, it'd be a nice place for a crack den. But I'm telling you, it was beautiful when we did it, and the sun was dappled coming through, and there was just a simple sheer piece of fabric that was hung in one of the trees, kind of to make the altar, and it was a very small wedding, and it was gorgeous.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll bet that you're amazing at that. I'll bet that the people who have you do that, I bet that they are. I bet that they're so grateful that they found you and decided to have you do that for them, because I imagine you taking it very seriously, and the words that you write at pre the ceremony and all of that. I just imagine you taking a lot of care and being really good at that.
I am. And there are two things you have to do when you marry people, and those are the legal things you have to do. I was at a wedding recently, and one of the things wasn't done, and I went, "Oh, should I get up?"
Raise your hand.
Yeah. Can we just take care of one little thing? Yeah, So I'm still trying to figure out if I should say something.
Technically speaking, wait until their 20th anniversary, and then
there we go. When they want to renew their vows, and let's get it
exactly.
We'll get it right.
Gretchen, this has been an awesome conversation. It's been wonderful having you here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being a partner in crime on the social media team for the Master Gardeners. And thanks for everything you do for this community.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and my pleasure being here.
Thank you. All right. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the podcast and leave a review. And if you think about starting a garden, maybe some backyard hens, or just getting outside more, I think this is your sign to do it. Next week, we'll hear from another incredible voice shaping the Treasure Valley. Until then, thanks for listening.